This is going to be hard.
That's what she said.
Thank you.
Coming up on episode 25, one big happy family. We're here, we're together at last. Let's see where everybody sits musically, shall we?
We could go all night. The years have passed, and now we're not that young. Not too old to have some fun. Oh,
Welcome to Verse, Chorus, Verse. Jesus. It's going to be a 7-hour episode. I don't have to work tomorrow, so...
6:30.
With me is the official Verse, Chorus, Verse team. But we'll say batting leadoff with a perfect batting percentage of loving pop bangers. That is Svend. I was here first, Knutsen. Svend, how are you?
Totally missing the sports reference, I think.
I mean, batting. You understand batting, right?
You hit something with a stick.
Stickball.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
stickball.
Rachel Polio is here. Rachel, how are you tonight?
I'm well, David.
So polite.
And then in the 3-hole, which is an unfortunate vernacular, he's been on here so much he probably should have quit already. Evil, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Good. That's it.
That's all.
That's everybody. I think we're done. This is going to be way too hard. What are we doing here tonight? So a while back, we got a fairly good amount of requests and some advice from other larger podcasts saying, you know what you should do? Let people know who you are. People want a connection. They want to feel like they know what you're into. So in order to do that, we're just going to talk our favorite albums for a while. These are my most difficult episodes because I'm trying as hard as I can not to plan them out, and that's difficult. These are Sven's favorite episodes because he doesn't have to listen to my rules.
There's no rules.
Right? You two don't know this, Rachel and Evil, but one of the last episodes that we recorded, we did No Doubt and we did Sea Change, which you knew that we did those, but we just recorded them. And real quick, before we get started with the episode, I wanted to touch on, you kept talking before the episode about how you really wanted to get it done. Can I go first?
Yeah.
Can we get this done?
Yeah.
Was that album fucking with you so bad that you had to feel that weight come off your shoulders? Was that what it was?
Dude, I love Tragic Kingdom. What?
I'm talking about Sea Change.
Oh, yeah, dude, that was tough. Anyone that hasn't listened to that episode, rewind and go listen to that. I'm a Beck fan going way back, but this was very different. Unexpected. I didn't catch any of the buzz about it, so it caught me really off guard. It was so dark, heavy on my shoulders. I just wanted to get it done with.
I didn't even know if you noticed how much you were talking to me about getting it done. You wanted to be done with that album so bad.
Yeah.
But I also want to ask Rachel and Evil a question about that episode, which they haven't heard it or anything. It's not out, but I want to ask you a No Doubt question. Post Tragic Kingdom, did you like No Doubt? I'm going to start with Rachel.
No.
What about Gwen Stefani on her own?
Even worse. No.
Oh, thank God.
Sorry.
No. There's hope. There's hope.
You know what I heard today that just totally reminded me of like how far Gwen Stefani went, like left turned from like Tragic Kingdom. I don't know what store I was in today, but that song that came on that she did, that she took the Fiddler on the Roof, like If I Were a Rich Man thing, but If I Were a Rich Girl. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's garbage.
Yeah. One of my favorite musicals. Now I can't listen to the damn thing because
How does If I Were a Rich Girl? Because she's been rich for a really, 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 really long time.
Yeah.
Evil, what are your No Doubt thoughts?
They were fine back then. I mean, that's a while ago. I honestly can't even put a finger on their music post Tragic Kingdom, to be honest.
That's the right answer, honestly.
I mean, her solo career was bananas.
B-A-N-A-N.
But
That's good.
yeah, not my
Okay,
not my
well,
thing.
I like that. Everybody agrees. There's really not going to be much of a warm-up, not too much to do. We're just going to talk about albums that we love. We're going to talk about specific genres, what we think is underrated, what we think isn't, stuff we think maybe sucks, but we still love it anyway. Unless anybody has anything to add before we talk about the most important part of the night, which is what we're drinking. It's very easy. Okay, Svend, what are you drinking tonight?
Yo! All right, let me dig into the cooler. Another giant. I'm really into the giant
Lagunitas?
cans lately. Yeah, Lagunitas IPA, like good old standby IPA.
I really like
Great
Lagunitas. It will forever remind me of Harry Parch now.
Yeah.
Evil, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, to sort of go along with favorite albums, I did 2 of my favorite drinks. I mixed up a cocktail, a whiskey sour.
Nice.
This is a recipe I found. I have 3 like cocktail YouTubers that I follow. I think we've talked about Greg on how to drink.
Love Greg.
And then 2 actual bartenders, a guy named Leandro, whose channel is The Educated Barfly, and then Steve the bartender, and Aussie, who's great as well. And I found this recipe. He did 3 whiskey sours in an episode, and this one it's a rye. I used to make them with bourbon. Also has orange juice in it alongside the lemon juice, and it's delicious. So I strongly recommend, if you like whiskey sours, checking out his recipe. And then alongside it, one of my favorite whiskeys, just some Buffalo Trace. Greatest hits, or great favorite albums, favorite drinks. So
We're very similar. Rachel, what are you drinking?
This is embarrassing. Here's the thing. I need to realize when Evil's here that I need to step up my drink game. And I feel like it was fine subjectively last time. And today it's just, I have a Diet Coke with sugar-free
And
vanilla.
vodka?
I have a glass of vodka.
Yeah.
Because it's what was in the freezer. And then I have a tiny Bailey's Colada. It's just like a sample one that I was like, that sounds good. And it's been in the freezer for like, who knows how long.
Oh, that's
For anybody that doesn't know, she lives in eastern Idaho where they don't allow alcohol.
Yeah.
So all of that she had to smuggle in ways.
I went to Oregon and then drove back over.
stories.
What type of vodka is it?
It's nothing good.
Okay.
It's like Smirnoff whipped cream flavored. vodka.
Heyo.
It's real bad.
It's BANANAS.
If only
Put both of those in the Diet Coke. I bet
I
you
bet
got
it would be
something.
good in
that
the
might be
Diet Coke.
okay.
Great minds think alike, Evil, because I have Macallan Scotch, which is one of my favorite scotches. And then samesies, my favorite drink is whiskey sour. So we've got the whiskey sour and
You're smart.
the whiskey I used in it, Buffalo Trace.
Do you guys call each other?
Yeah. I see where this is
I
going.
can't believe we wore the same thing. That's so embarrassing.
Embarrassing.
So that's what we're drinking tonight. We're not going to waste a bunch of time. We want to get into this. I am excited. And the research for this was fun. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we are going to talk each verse, chorus, verse, Slave's favorite album. Well, I'm going to have to edit that out. I can't say that. We'll be right back.
Cause you and me fit together naturally.
Okay, we are back. Let's get into this. Let's talk favorite albums. And I'm coming out with a bang. I'm starting with Svend because I know the answer and we're not going to go anticlimactic here. Do you have a blatant no contest forever and ever? It's going to be their favorite album of all time.
Ooh, no.
There we go. Do you, Rachel?
No. I have like a top 5 to 10 albums, but there's not like one this is the best album I've ever heard and I could listen to it all day, all night.
What about you, Evil?
I've got a list of maybe 50 or 60 albums on here, and there's one that stands above all of them.
Okay, so don't give it to us yet, but we're going to end it with that, and we're going to end it with mine too. Evil and I have one, Svend and Rachel don't. Look at the yin and the yang, the black and white cookie. This is just going to work out so well. I'm going to ask Svend, you are not the type to be embarrassed by what you like. That said, do you have any albums that you are maybe not embarrassed, but kind of why do I think this album is so good?
I don't know about albums. I have artists or bands that I listen to that probably make people raise an eyebrow. I will rock out to like any ABBA album. I will have my own dance queen party.
I guess you could just count ABBA's greatest hits because that's what everybody
ABBA Gold.
buys anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
The ABBA Gold.
ABBA Gold.
That's what it is.
I throw on
Yeah.
some ABBA Gold and I won't stop dancing. I dig everything though. Some of my records are just like opera.
Do you have a favorite opera?
Tice or Dido and Anais. That's good too. Still favorite. It's good, but I flip flop too much. You know.
It's allowed.
Yeah.
Rachel, what is the first favorite album that you remember ever having?
Fiona Apple title.
Jesus Christ, yours is so better than mine.
Damn.
I know.
That's impressive.
Thank
I mean,
you.
you must have been really young. That's got to be junior high at least, right?
96. Do some math. 13.
Wow.
You're into
13-ish.
Fiona Apple at
When that
13?
came out.
That
Yeah.
shit
Well,
was way
shit,
over
how
my
old was
head.
she when she did Tidal? 15, 16?
No, she was 18 when it was released, and then 19 when she got her first Grammy. She was a kid. And if you listen to the lyrics and realize how young she was, you can be even more impressed.
I don't know
by
if you
how good it is.
Our last episode that released where I actually welcome you both into the fold in Evil and Rachel. Farther on down the line in the podcast, I make a bit of a snide comment about how nobody knows what the hell they're talking about lyrically because of you liking 1989 by Taylor Swift.
Fuck off.
In that same sentence, I make a comment about how everybody has immature lyrics unless you're Fiona Apple and you're writing like a fucking 35-year-old when you're 16.
Yeah.
That's funny that you bring that up. Evil, same question. Do you remember either the first album you owned or the first album that you loved?
There were a few, I had like cassette tapes because the very first one that I had was Styx. Kilroy was
Nice.
here, I think, with Mr. Roboto. I think that was the first one I had. I very quickly after that stole a copy of my brother's Motley Crue, Shout Out the Devil, and I got it taken away at school because that was inappropriate for a second grader.
Yeah.
And somewhere in there was the Footloose soundtrack as well.
Oh.
So I remember those.
First two albums I ever owned that I loved enough to talk somebody into getting for me are drastically different. First one being Vanilla Ice, the
Yeah.
whatever came, what was it? Not Cool as Ice. I think that was his movie, obviously.
Ice Baby.
To the Extreme. That's
To
what
the
it was.
extreme.
And then
He rocked the mic like a vandal.
He did.
And then Alice Cooper's Trash, which had
Whoa.
Poison on it, and
Yeah.
it's an awesome album. I'll listen. I want to go listen to it right now.
Yeah.
Sven, what about you? What's the first album
You know-
that you remember loving or owning?
Very first album, and actually this is probably the closest I would get to like a favorite overall album. It's not, but close. Michael Jackson's Bad on cassette was the very first album I ever owned. Did my little 6-year-old moonwalk. I was trying to like sing along. Oh, I had like the whole show, the routine, everything. So it's no surprise I've circled back to pop music, I think, because that was like my original, like fell in love with the king of pop. And then, never stopped.
I'm going to ask Rachel kind of the same question that I asked Sven at first, which is there an album that maybe you, in your heart of hearts, know it's probably not that good? Or, I don't want to say guilty pleasure album, but I'm just going to say guilty pleasure album.
I mean, one that I'm maybe embarrassed that I like to listen to still after all these years. But it's a very well put together album, I think, is Collision Course.
Who's that?
Linkin Park and Jay-Z.
Oh, okay. Speaking of Linkin Park, I loved Reanimated. It was Hybrid Theory completely remixed. And I don't know what it was about that album, but I loved it. So good job, Rachel. You reminded me of one.
You're welcome.
Samesies.
We found the Linkin Park fan.
Evil, you kind of have a cheat because you were such a fan of the 80s hairband metal
Yes.
that there's so many that you can name.
Oh, yeah. We want to talk like guilty pleasure. I love Warrant. I love Warrant's first album.
I knew you were going to go.
Dirty, Rotten, Filthy, Stinking Rich is great. I love that album.
Is that the one with She's My Cherry Pie on it?
That's their second album. But
Okay.
it actually, that track starts with the Dirty, Rotten, Filthy, Stinking Rich that
Yeah.
starts a track on the first album as well. They kind of like change it up. Oh, wait, cool. I love White Lion. they're an extremely talented band. At least Vito Bratta, the guitar player, was amazing. I love Extreme too. I consider them a '90s band, but I mean, they're great. I mean, Nuno Bettencourt. We'll talk about him later.
Someday when we do a guitar episode, he's going to be talked about quite a bit.
Oh, geez, yeah.
So this is the part of the episode where all four of us harmonize and sing more than words. Are you guys ready? I'm pretty much right there with you on that 80s. I was a little too young for it, but I do remember being fascinated by the Warrant and the Adamant, all that kind of shit that was coming out then. It's pretty fascinating stuff. I think my favorite album to come out of that whole period, though, was Dr. Feelgood by Motley Crue.
Ooh.
That album,
Yeah,
oh my
that's a
God,
good
that
one.
album's so good. Rachel, you are a big hip-hop fan. Would you call Eminem your favorite?
Probably.
What's your favorite album of his?
Probably the OG, I think.
Real Slim Shady?
Yeah. I think that's when I fell in love. I saw him shortly after that, and I was like, he is literally the most talented person I've ever seen perform. That was 22 years ago I saw him perform, and at that point in his career, he was the most talented person I had ever seen perform.
And that was when he still had like that cartoony sound, like a lot of his beats and everything
Yeah.
were like,
oh, yeah.
it was like
Yeah.
South Park
For sure.
meets
That's fair.
hip hop.
He stopped doing that right after that in my favorite album of his, which is the Eminem Show. That album was pretty political and
Yeah. See, my favorite was Marshall Mathers LP, right between you two.
Yeah.
But it still had that funny, I'm going to say stupid shit that pisses people off, and that's why I'm saying it.
that will lead into this question. I'm going to start with Evil. Do you have a favorite rap or hip hop album of all
I
time?
knew you were going to ask this, so I wrote down 3.
Awesome.
They're all old.
Awesome.
Run DMC, Raising Hell is amazing.
Yeah.
Nice.
I have it on vinyl. I have the original copy my brother bought in high school on vinyl still.
Badass.
Straight out of Compton. I actually listened to that in
Yeah.
high school when it was new. And Public Enemy, It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back.
Yes.
Those are probably my top 3. I don't have an order, but I'll just say those are top 3 for me.
I'm going to go next because Takes a Nation to Hold Us Back is, I'll name 3 too. That's on mine. Until the End of Time by Tupac. And then, surprise one that I doubt that any of you have ever heard. Kids See Ghosts came out about 6 years ago. It's a project by Kanye West and Kid Cudi.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
fucking insane. You
sent that to me.
Oh, really? Kids See Ghosts, self-titled album. Anybody that hasn't heard that, fairly new, go listen to it because it seriously, it'll knock you on your ass. Rachel, do you have favorite hip-hop albums?
I like the ones you like, David. You just have such good taste in hip hop.
Hey, see, that's a win. That's a win. You know, technically, you already cited Jay-Z and Eminem. So, Svend, do you have one?
I got a couple. The sleeper one that I don't know that anyone's ever heard of is this guy named Sleep. He was from a group out of Portland called Old Dominion, and his solo projects were awesome. His real name's Chris or Christopher. So Christopher is the name of the album. That's one of my favorite of his. He's quick. He's fun to listen to. The other one, more nostalgia and memories in my life, but Dre's Chronic 2001.
Oh, yeah.
It came out when I was in high school. I listened to
Can I
that
change my answer?
everywhere I go because that was what was...
How quickly you change teams, Rachel. This is bullshit.
Have I ever not been on Sven's team?
That's very true.
Come on.
The original Chronic is one of the few rap CDs I purchased. That was a great album
That's
as
great.
well.
Yeah, I don't want to come off like I don't appreciate so many other... There's so many things that led to that. The 2 albums that I just named off, hip-hop, I'm a fan going all the way back to like, I don't know, even like old... a third one on there. Notorious B.I.G., Ready to Die, I think. You said Pac. I was all about that, but I think I gotta give a little East Coast love.
Let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum. Rachel, do you have a favorite country album?
Ooh.
Do I have a favorite country album? I would say Ready to Fly, probably.
I was gonna. It's had to have been the Chicks.
It's the Chicks! Ready to Fly, definitely. That's a classic. There's not any shitty songs on there. If you like that genre and them
So how big of a country fan are you?
more than you would like, David.
Are there any other albums you want to mention? Is what I'm getting at.
I mean, nothing as big as that. I was pretty into Faith Hill, Deanna Carter when I was in high school. Right now, Casey Musgraves is quite good. Her latest one could use some work, but the one before was great. I can't think of the name of that one.
Does she sing the song that my daughter sings about smoking weed or not smoking weed or get, yeah.
I believe it's Biscuits is the name of the song. Mind Your Own Biscuits and Life
My
Will Be Gravy.
Daughter loves that song.
Yeah. Sounds
And
right.
I can't really say shit about it, even though she's singing about smoking weed and whatever else. Evil, I think you are more my speed in that you want the old country.
I knew you were going to ask this too, so I jotted down a few things.
You're gonna be the Waylon fan, aren't
The
you?
outlaw country is kind of what I grew up with because my dad, he was, a professional bull rider and liked all that
Fucking
kind
badass.
of stuff. Waylon, Willie, Johnny Cash. So Cash's live albums come to mind. It would be really easy to pick one of like Sturgill's first few albums for more modern country. But my favorite country album is actually by Roger Clyne and the Peacemakers, who previously were the Refreshments. Their first album's called Honky Tonk Union, and I'm like, oh my God, I haven't listened to Honky Tonk Union forever. I put it on like yesterday.
Was that who the lyrics were you sent me today?
It is. Yep. Well done.
I dream in color, I live in black and white. Still I have those days when I'm stumbling through the grays, when I drink for boredom and for spite.
Yep. That's it.
If that isn't fucking outlaw country, I don't know what is.
That's from a different album, but same musical vein. Yeah. Yeah. That band's awesome.
So I really like old. There is a kind of a tribute album to Hank Williams where they found all this old, really well recorded stuff of his. It's called Alone and Forsaken. And the song on it, Alone and Forsaken, is probably my favorite country song of all time. It's so good. I like that sort of stuff. I really like Folsom County. We talked about this, I think, on our 69 one. I don't think it's his best, but it's just, that was when he was he had embraced the whole, I'm a druggy, alcoholic psycho. You could hear it in his voice. He's kind of mad in that, and I just love it. And then huge Tennessee Ernie Ford fan. So that whole 16 Tons album, really awesome. Svend, what do you got?
I'm going to throw three out, going in several different subcategories of country. Old school, I'm a Willie fan. Stardust, actually.
That's a good album.
It's a great album. And for old school country, it's not that country, but it's still Willie. And then more recently, I've been into Chris Stapleton. Tennessee Whiskey, I think, was the first song I ever heard and fell in love with it. It's from the album Traveler.
So he's a current artist.
He's current and killing it. I would kill to have a voice like that soulful, and the runs he hits and things like that, but it's still country genre. And then my fun country, like, this is one that I haven't seen him live, but I would love to. Zac Brown Band. The Foundation is probably the album that I'll throw out as the one that got me into him. It's got like Chicken Fried, the first hits he had. Amazing guitarist. He jams. The band is a jam band.
You're going to have to give that to me at some point because I don't know Zac Brown Band at all.
Dude,
they did a song with Chris Cornell.
What
Yeah.
the
That's amazing.
fuck?
you would dig
Really?
Zac
Yep.
Brown. Yeah.
Well, sold
Yep.
me. I don't know if everybody's going to have an answer to this, so feel free to sit out on this one. But I'm going to go to Svend first. Svend, if somebody were to come to you and say, look, I'm trying to get into jazz. I want to get into jazz. I want to understand it. I want to get why people love jazz so much. Is there an album that you would give them?
I'd have to ask some follow-up questions. I know this is not the answer that probably fits well, but like I need to know what they do like, because I think there's always a jazz album that's a gateway depending on what you're into. Like I steer people towards things like Herbie Hancock because he's kind of got a foot in each door.
It's a teeny bit, I don't want to say simpler, but easier to understand. It's easier to listen to a little bit.
Yeah, it's not just full out hit you over that, because jazz as a genre is huge. There's jazz I don't enjoy. I'm a huge jazz fan in general, but there's jazz music I'm not as big of a fan of.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to win anyone over to a bunch of big band kind of swing. Glenn Miller and stuff like that. I mean, it's talented. There's some good stuff. Like, it's not what I listen to I'm not going to try to convince anyone else to love it. They can love it if they want to.
Well, because there is a danger if you say like kind of blue or something like that, somebody's going to listen to that and be like, holy fuck, I can't get this.
Yeah. I don't drop people straight into like any bebop or anything. Like, I avoid Coltrane, Miles Davis, any of the stuff that... Bebop is weird. Like, if you're into jazz, it can be really exciting, but if you're not, you can be like, why are they just playing random fucking notes at 300 miles an hour sometimes? And then other times, they're playing shit that doesn't go along with the chords that the piano player's playing. And Headhunters, Herbie Hancock Headhunters.
There you go.
It's
Perfect.
funk, but it's jazz. That's easy.
Rachel, Evil, do you listen to jazz?
No. No is the short answer. The long answer is I used to own a couple Diana Krall albums,
Yes!
which we got,
Sorry, you just got me so
shoved on
excited.
us in high school. But I did like her. So would Pink Martini go in that genre?
Ish. Pink Martini is more of a retro.
Because they're jazzy, but are they jazz? Probably not.
Maybe like what's the 90s big band genre?
That's not big band.
I'm not saying it's big band, but there was a genre there where there were ska bands, there were big band bands, there were jazz. It was kind of a
It's fake jazz. It's not real jazz. Don't get me wrong.
okay.
I think fake jazz is still jazz.
It's jazzy.
Most jazz is fake.
Whoa,
Whoa.
okay.
They invented fake it till you make
They
it.
did.
Yeah,
That's true.
true.
That's
That's a
true.
good point.
Just saying.
Yes.
Yeah,
They did.
that's a very good point.
Evil,
That's
do you like jazz?
I do. I think if you enjoy music in general, like broadly, you eventually wind up at jazz at some point. It's like the ultimate endpoint to music, I feel like.
Genius of Modern Music by Thelonious Monk is my favorite jazz album, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. There's something about the sound of Thelonious Monk that just hits me right. Hey, Rachel, how's it going?
Hey, Dave.
Either tell me an album that you think not many people have listened to that need to, or just throw out an album on your list that you haven't talked about yet.
Operation Ivy?
Heyo, which one? The self-titled?
Yeah. It's like the best 20 minutes of your life.
Is it really that short?
It's really, I don't know how long
No,
it is.
you're
It's
probably
really,
right.
It's really
You're
short.
probably right.
Yeah.
So I guess we can go to punk then.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's do
that.
punk. I'll go after that. Operation Ivy is a good one.
And punk is so broad.
Yeah.
I hear stuff that is punk, but I'm like, is it really? Like, is Green Day punk?
Yeah, they are, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
Or maybe they were.
Ish.
I enjoy some Green Day.
You know what? Now that you say that, and this is kind of tripping me out, is I'm thinking back to When I Come Around and
Yeah, like Dookie.
Basket Case. I
Has
guess
some punk
Basket Case is
spirit.
pretty punky,
Yeah.
but it's a lot more alternative.
And that started a whole string of bands that are like, what do we call them? Pop punk?
Yeah.
Right?
Ataris.
It's
and
punk, but it's pop. I don't know. You could call that like
Blink.
pure punk.
Do you have a punk album that you love, Svend?
I started with Nevermind the Bollocks.
Started with
I
it.
mean,
Meh.
Didn't everybody? Sex Pistols was when I wanted to know what punk was. Like, I don't know who pointed me in that direction, but like, yeah, like
We have an
apparently
award named
Sex
after
Pistols.
that. That's how good
You
that
know?
album is.
Yeah, God Save the Queen, Anarchy in the UK, that kind of stuff. Playing it on my guitar and screaming it as like a 13-year-old boy, and my parents so confused why I was pissed off with the Queen of England.
Cliche to say London Calling because London Calling it's probably not my favorite. So I'm a huge Bad Religion fan. Like Process of Belief is
Yeah.
probably my favorite Bad Religion album, but I love London Calling. That album's amazing. That's like top 5 cliche albums that like I might as well just start talking about Abbey Road and Dark Side of the Moon. And my God, I am cliche. Evil, are you a punk guy, or were you at one point a punk guy? I feel like it's hard to be so into heavy metal hair band stuff and punk at the same time.
Well, like hardcore punk for sure, because that influences a lot of the music I listen to now. And I've kind of gone back, like Earth Crisis, stuff like that. I've reverse engineered like bands that I really love, like Unearth. Where did they come up with some of these ideas? I love Corrosion of Conformity, who when Pepper Keenan joined, they kind of became a hardcore crossover band. But prior to that, they were a hardcore punk band. Not like NoFX punk or like, which I like NoFX too, but it's not like that's not my thing. That's not what
Yeah.
The old stuff is great. Like Ramones, The Clash. You have to have some experience with bands like that if you're in rock music at all.
I should have gone to this earlier, but I didn't because it was already brought up when Rachel talked about Tidal. Favorite albums with a female vocalist, which that reminded me of Win the Pawn, which is probably one of my favorite albums of all time, which was the album after Tidal for Fiona Apple. I'll just keep going. Another band that I don't remember if Evil gave it to me or I gave it to Evil, but Dead Sarah. They have a self-titled
Thanks for bringing them
album,
up.
and if nobody has heard of Dead Sarah, they will knock you on your ass. We saw them live, and I'm sorry, I forgot her name. Emily Armstrong.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen Emily Armstrong yet, go and see Emily Armstrong live. First song in, we looked at each other and we said, well, this is like she's going to be fucked in 3
Her
minutes.
voice is going to be fried.
Yeah.
Nope.
12 songs later, and she's just ripping it. It was one of the
Yeah.
craziest things I've ever seen. That's way up there for me. Unfortunately, Janice was never an album person because I love Janice more than anything, but she was more a live performer. And Rachel, you gave us Tidal. Do you have anything else that's not Mariah Carey?
God, Mariah Carey's just so good. Whitney.
I'd take Whitney over Mariah.
I mean,
Love got to.
That's Tina.
Oh shit.
I almost picked Tori Amos for this.
Oh
but
my God. Boys for Pele. Boys for Pele.
Yeah.
Fuck me. How did I not say that one? Okay. Sorry, Rachel.
It's okay. I was going to go Little Earthquakes, but Boys for Pele's good.
That's the right answer. Boys for Pele. Anyway,
That's all I got for now. I
you
quit.
quit?
Pass.
You quit.
I already won with Fiona. I know.
Evil, what do you got?
You stole mine. I mean, Dead Sarah would have been my number one pick. That self-titled album is, I mean, oh my God, it is fantastic. And the Weatherman, that song is,
Ooh.
yeah,
Yikers.
amazing. Have you ever heard Whitney Houston's isolated track for oh gosh, what's the song?
How do I know if he really loves me?
Yes, if you listen to the isolated voice track for that, the isolated vocals, she was amazing. This is pre-auto-tune, I'm just blown away by that.
Sven, do you have any?
Emily Wells, probably fairly unknown. She's got an album called Mama. She's got a bunch of albums. She's got an album called Mama that she did twice. There's Mama, and then there's just like all of her acoustic recordings. She fascinates me. She's a multi-instrumentalist. I think some instruments are just like shit she makes, maybe not, but she's just one person and sounds like an entire band. Dua Lipa. I mean, if you're gonna, I'm
doing
I'm
newer
the pop
stuff.
guy, right? So I'm a huge fan of like almost everything she does. Her Dua Lipa album probably is what got me into her. Like, I don't know, it's funky. It's she's one of those people that I feel like is bringing jazz and music and jazz chords, like more complex music, back into pop music. Let's see, Cranberries. I feel like if we're gonna talk female leads,
the Faithfully Departed, or what was it?
And I think No Need to Argue was the one that I was thinking of off the bat. But like, I don't know, I like all of Cranberries stuff. Just
God
about.
damn,
That's a good
such a good one. It should have been mine.
I forgot to mention Alison Krauss.
Oh, puppies! I want to save the puppies.
different.
You're thinking of
That's
Sarah
Sarah
McLachlan.
McLachlan.
No, that's Sarah McLachlan. Sorry.
It's very different. Whiskey Lullaby.
Yeah.
She did that one with she has like
she's a lot
the
of
most
stuff.
Grammys of anyone ever, I believe. I'm not kidding. I think she has like
Really?
almost 30 Grammys. Who was it that hates Grammys? Was it you, Dave, or Sven? I don't remember.
No, he loves them. I hate them.
Or was it
Real
both of you?
shocker there. Nobody saw that coming. I want to talk new albums. Rachel, two-part question. What are you listening to right now the most, and what is the most recent released album that you love?
Most recent released would be the Megan Thee Stallion. I really am not very hip to the stuff that's come out in the last year or so, to be perfectly
I am.
honest.
That's why I totally know what you're talking about, and I'm not Googling it
You don't
right
know what
now.
I'm talking about?
Megan the Stallion with 2 E's. Of course I do. 2 E's. Go ahead.
David. All right.
What's the album called?
Fuck if I know. I really don't know.
Okay.
To be honest. The album is called Good News.
Okay.
That's what it was.
All right.
That was the album.
What are you listening to the most right now? Same thing?
I don't want to give anything away for our next episode, and so that's what I mostly
Fucking
listen to.
Jesus Christ.
Sorry.
Oh,
We're going to have words on that shit. We really are. Evil, same question.
There are two things that have impressed me this year. Royal Blood's album Typhoons. There it is. Yeah, we didn't plan that.
We really didn't.
Did
but
you though?
we knew.
Same drink, same
and-
album, same shirt.
Made me look.
Jason Bieler and the Baron von Bielski Orchestra.
Well, that's made up.
No. Jason Bieler was the main songwriter for Saigon Kick.
Fucking A, really?
Yep, I have been disconnected from him musically since I think the last album I had of theirs was The Devil in the Details, 96 maybe.
Look at this.
And I just I was looking up new albums and I found it. I was like, oh my God, I got to listen to this. One of them is a collaboration with Devin Townsend.
Oh, there
and
we go.
I love it. Absolutely love it. If you don't like that kind of music, you're gonna hate it. I'm just gonna, it's weird. It's quirky. It's musicians' music, but I love it. But Typhoons, going back to Royal Blood, that album.
My God.
Oh my God. It's probably like my favorite album the last 5 years.
I can't stop listening to it. I still
me too.
can't. It's
band's amazing.
It's causing harm to the podcast with how much I'm not listening to other shit. It's not good. It's true.
Yeah.
Sven, what about you? What are you listening to right now?
well, actually, this was one that we did a quick fire on. Olivia Rodrigo, Sour.
Man, up in that shit.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been digging that. That's from this year. Of course, the Foo Fighters, Medicine at Midnight. I don't know. I'm not going to beat that dead horse.
So bad.
It's awesome.
Same for me, Royal Bloods, and I'm still listening to that Mogwai album, that newest Mogwai album.
Yeah.
And also because of the podcast Simulation Theory by Muse, I'm listening to a shit ton right now. Spoilers, I guess. We're going to wind down here soon. Give me an album that we haven't talked about yet that you want to make sure that we do talk about.
Have we talked about We haven't talked about Nevermind.
We haven't talked about really anything grunge.
That's cliche. That's like the Nirvana
Some things
album.
are cliche for a reason.
That is seriously one of my favorite Nirvana anythings ever. And then that was kind of the template for a lot of the other things that I like that came out of Nirvana.
There are so many albums that we're not going to be able to get to. Most of mine probably come from the grunge era. You know, every album that Soundgarden ever did. I
I was going to say, how's no one said Soundgarden?
Every album that Alice in Chains ever
this-
did. Every album that very funny.
I have a really specific album to ask about because we haven't talked about it yet.
I like it.
But Smashing Pumpkins, Melancholy, and the Infinite Sadness. Is that grabbing anybody?
So
Like that was one of those double things like
amazing.
The two
I was
disc-
actually
yeah.
more of a Gish guy myself.
Siamese Dreams on my list.
Look at us. We're all different.
I agree with Sven. Sorry. Melancholy.
Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. Figures.
Well, because you got like everything in that one.
No, I'm kidding.
got
That's a great
everything.
album. No, it's an amazing album. It really is. I think Gish was just the first one I heard, and that was one of those who the hell
one
are
heard
these
him
guys
before that,
kind of
so.
thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Cherub Rock, that's what a great album opener.
When I'm talking my favorite albums, the only other one that I didn't mention yet, super random one that's way more nostalgia. We talked about it at the very beginning of the episode. Albums that may not be worthy of being a favorite album of all time, but they still are. There's something about God Shuffled His Feet album by the Crash Test Dummies that I will always be obsessed with. I will listen to that album.
Is that
So-
the one that was on it?
It has the song on it too, but every song on it is amazing. Fun fact, last year, you know how on Spotify they give you your little results at the end of the year and what you listen to, and So I was in the 99.9 something percentile of Crash Test Dummies listeners. I literally listen to Crash Test Dummies more than anybody else on Spotify. So, yeah.
That's insane a little bit.
Thank you. I work really hard at it. Rachel, anything we didn't mention that you need to, that you're sad about?
There is, actually. We didn't talk about garbage.
Yes!
And we didn't talk...
Sorry.
We didn't talk about Bush. That's what I was going to say. Ooh. Garbage and Bush. Because we were talking about grunge and kind of missed over those two.
But so like 16
Razor Blade Suitcase. Oh,
Stone?
Razor
16
Blade
stone.
Suitcase was my favorite.
thank you.
16
Over
stone was
16
good.
stone?
Wow.
Razor Blade Suitcase has some good stuff in it.
Greedy Fly.
It had some good orchestral in there as well, which I was
All
really
right.
into.
Which garbage was your favorite?
2.0 probably. So that was
Yeah.
mid-ish 90s, I believe.
Is that it? Garbage and Bush?
Oh, Less Than Jake. I had Less Than Jake written down too.
Okay. Less Than Jake is awesome.
Love Less.
You've got this little niche here of I'm starting to learn a bit about you, Rachel, with your Operation Ivy and your Less Than Jake. I'm walking away with I'm admiring you a little bit from afar.
I'm not just Taylor Swift, David.
Yeah. Evil, I know that you have a list of about 76 albums that we haven't talked about. Okay, so
so
we're
many.
going to call this Evil's Corner. Evil, we're going to go take a break. You slowly name off every single album and why you like them.
We'll be back in 20 minutes.
We'll be back.
You have to
next
talk
week.
really fast.
I want you to give me 3 albums on there that are not your favorite album. So
I've got my
just
3.
Don't name your favorite yet, but give me 3 on that list.
Number 3. Well, I should say number 4 because we're leaving out my number 1. AC/DC Highway to Hell is the most rock and roll album ever. Bon Scott, there's no bad track on that album.
Yeah.
Honestly, Angus Young, like one of my favorite guitar tones, guitar sounds anywhere.
So that was 4. Number 3 is Down, NOLA. Down was like a side project supergroup initially, as Phil Anselmo from Pantera, Pepper Keenan from Corrosion of Conformity, some guys from Crowbar, a guy from I Hate God, EYE, Hate God, like a sludge metal band, that got together and recorded what they kind of figured Sabbath would sound like in the mid-90s, filtered through Southern, I don't know, you take like Sabbath, Pantera, and maybe Skynyrd, and because it was named NOLA, they're all from New Orleans, and it is the most riff-heavy album I've ever listened to, and the guitar tone is just mean. They've been doing stuff, on and off since then, but that album, they captured lightning in a bottle with that one. It has the greatest closing track to any album I've ever heard.
Hearsay.
Period.
Besides the Beatles.
Yeah. No.
Damn.
Number 2, Unearth, The Oncoming Storm. Probably my favorite metal album of all time. They're a band from Boston. They're self-proclaimed massholes from Boston. They're like, yeah, Boston. And they play guitar. They took hardcore punk, a la Earth Crisis, melded it with melodic death metal from Sweden, a la In Flames, and created this new thing that is brilliant. And they are the kings of breakdowns in metal music. To this day, it's amazing. Their like kind of magnum opus is Zombie Autopilot. It's on this album.
You're all tired.
No.
You're all sick of this shit. Maybe just one of us has a very I want to be done with this shit look on his or her face. Anybody else have anything before we get to the main question of the night?
We already know what we're all drinking. What are you talking about?
Nothing. Go back to bed, Svend.
I was gonna win the pond, but we already kind of talked about that. But that's in the top handful of my favorite
Album's
albums.
amazing.
Yeah.
There are a lot of other albums that I'm not going to mention, specifically because they're going to ruin certain band dissections. If I give a favorite album for Radiohead and Alice in Chains and stuff like that, people are going to know for further thingies and whatnots. It sounds like it's pretty much James and I that actually have a favorite album of all time. So we're going to give those, and then we're going to call it a night. I'll go first, and I'll let Evil go last. because he's special. So my favorite album of all time was a one-off, a bit of a super group. The genre fits me perfectly, but it is right behind me, and it's Above by Mad Season. I will never hear anything like that again. It just happens to have my favorite vocalist of all time singing on it, and I dare you to put that in a genre. It is my favorite album of all time. I will always worship it. That's her, Evil. Let's hear
Do you
it.
want to guess?
I'm just going to go classic, and maybe it's because I've been listening to it for maybe some other projects that are going on, but I'm just going to go number one, Van Halen, 1978's The Original Four.
That is my third favorite Van Halen
That was a
album.
bad guess.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
Yep.
What is it then?
Women and Children First. It's their third album.
No shit.
What's crazy is the Van Halen fans that I know personally, this is all their favorite Van Halen album. If you talk to like guitar players, they'll say maybe Fair Warning, that was like their peak of creativity with the Roth era stuff, or, you know, it's hard to like argue against Self-Titled, what you just mentioned. I mean, that was landmark for sure. But for me personally, Women and Children First, it's the best of both worlds, which is Van Halen's song. No, it's literally like, for anyone who doesn't understand how the music industry works or worked back then, like bands would get signed and they did not make money forever. Van Halen recorded Van Halen 1, Van Halen 2, Women and Children First, Fair Warning, and maybe started making money around Diver Down in 1984. And then Roth was out of the band. And they were putting out albums like every year. You know, we're not talking about like 2-3 year album cycles. It was like every year they're cranking out like masterpieces. And for me, this was like them at their absolute wildest and craziest. This whole album is pure attitude. And I think that's what I like about it most.
There we go. Now you know everything about us and how regretful you are that you asked for this.
Damn. Damn.
Join us next week when Svend and I only dissect one of my favorite bands of all time in Muse. I will be in New Orleans, and it's going to be good. Rachel, Polio, Evil Jimmy, it was awesome having you both. I'm glad that we finally found the faces of the podcast, and now we can start making that money.
Whatever I can do.
That's it. We'll see you next week. Ta-ta.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Somehow edit that shit show into an episode.
Sun has set, we will come alive. We could go all night. Years have passed, now we're not that young. We're not too old to have some fun.